is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now.
Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it.
Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now.
Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, guys, we are back again. Welcome to episode number 203 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, November the 4th, 2023. My name is Jeremy Lee. I want to thank everybody who joined us last time with Richard Scott. Great episode, great books. You can find those books that he sells on the Amazon bookstore. And check out that video if you would like. No episode, everybody. No episode next Saturday. I will be at Toronto at the Sport Card Expo. And so we'll have another break from the show. We have other content on the channel coming. Tomorrow night, Josh Madigan of the Hockey Cards Gong Show joins me for our weekly PWCC hockey auction coverage. And then on Monday night, Michael Hathaway joins me for the weekly MC Mondays Live eBay auction coverage. Both shows are always a blast and educational. Don't forget the education component of those shows. I'd like to ask you to join close to 500,000 people who have downloaded the Center Stage app across both iOS and Android for quick comps and card management features. Their app is the fastest and most accurate at card shows or at home to help you price your cards. You can build, organize, and share your collections with friends and find other collectors to follow using their social sharing features. Marketplace features are coming soon. Check out their Instagram account and join me in supporting the great team they have and the innovation they are undertaking. Also, use protection, practice safe swaps. VeriSwap is an app and middleman service that lets you securely trade cards through the mail. Every transaction up to $1 million in value is fully insured by their guarantee. Check them out on iOS and Android. The app is now available in Canada. Use the referral link in the video description, and your first trade is $1. Also, they're sponsoring the Saturday night trade night at the Sport Card Expo next weekend. I want to shout out Leighton Sheldon, Just Collect. He will hopefully be joining us later tonight. He had a delayed flight today. Hopefully he makes it in time to join us. And if you haven't yet heard, ComC is now supporting tag graded cards on their platform. Tag Grading's Discord server and Facebook group. You can join by visiting the website. You'll find out about grading drops, surprise drops, and all news. Tag www.taggrading.com. Who says www anymore? I don't know. Anyway, thank you to all of the Sports Cards Live sponsors and partners, and thanks to all of our loyal viewers and listeners. If you're not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast, please take a moment and do so. And as always tonight, your comments, your questions are in play. All right, good. Let's get to tonight's guest. He really doesn't need an introduction. He's been on the show before. You all know who he is. Let's bring him out right away. Geoff Wilson, welcome back to Sports Cards Live. Geoff, how are you doing today?
Jeremy, I'm great. It's great to be back with you. I'm a little sad because it is the week of the Sport Card Expo, which is one of the greatest card shows, certainly Canada's greatest, and always a fun one to go to. And I will be missing it this year for the first time in a few years, which I'm sad about. I got good reasons as to why, but I'm a little sad. I'm not going to get up there and see you. Hopefully some of the folks in your audience are still going to get to go because it is a wonderful show.
I hope so too. I'm now seeing, let me change up the mic. Is that a little bit better? I think that might be a little bit better now. I saw a message. I sound a little muted. I'm also a little under the weather tonight, so you might be noticing that, but you guys can hear me. That is great, Geoff. Yes, the Expo's coming up. You've been there before. We've seen you there before. It would be great to have you and the team back up, but we will go on without you in Toronto. Tonight is a 2-segment episode. We're doing the first half with Geoff, and then an hour in, we've got Mikey Singer, who runs the Expo, and Ameet Acharya. He's been on with me several times. We do the pre-Expo show, the post-Expo debrief episodes. He'll be coming on. They'll be joining us in a little while tonight, but I wanted to get Geoff on. Geoff's got some big news lately. Geoff, along with some partners, you are opening up a new LCS, a new card shop in the Atlanta area. And I've read about it, what you've posted. I visited the website. You have something really big going on there. I'd like to start by really asking you, what was the impetus, the inspiration for this? Was this a lifelong dream? Tell us about the decision and why finally, why now you are opening up a card shop?
Yeah, I mean, super, super excited about it and super excited to have the opportunity to do it. I've thought about the idea of opening up a card shop, I mean, since kind of the early days of Sports Card Investor. And the only reason why I didn't take the leap before now is because I knew that I would really have to have the right people to partner with to do it. And, I've been in retail businesses in the past, and I know that they are a major operational challenge, that there's a lot to opening up a shop and operating a shop. And I have tremendous respect for great retail operators in any industry. So you got to have really great people and a really great team. And at Sports Card Investor, I've got an amazing team at producing content, at doing marketing, and I've got an amazing team at building out software products, market movers and our app and that kind of thing. But I don't necessarily have card shop operators, right? So I needed to find those right people. So it was something in the back of my mind that I always wanted to do, but I also wasn't in a rush to do it. And it just so happened that I found the two guys who I felt like were the right people to do it with, two card entrepreneurs in Atlanta, named Carter and Ryan, who had really started to help build up the Atlanta card community through hosting an Atlanta trade night, which they put together and ran for the last couple of years. And they're all over the country. They're at the Dallas Card Show this weekend. They've been doing major shows, and they were getting ready to open up their own shop in Atlanta. The two of them decided to partner together and do a shop. It would have been a much smaller store. And they told me this right before they signed the lease. And I said, hold on, guys. I said, I've been looking to do a shop for a while. Let's have a conversation to see if it makes sense for us to partner together and do this together instead of you guys doing your own thing and me doing my own thing, sometime down the road. And we met, and the rest is history. We decided it was going to be a great marriage, and hopefully it will prove to be.
So when did that happen? Like, how long has this been in the works for? Obviously, you would have kept it under wraps for a while, but when did that conversation happen where, they were going to sign the lease and you decided to partner up?
Just over a year ago. And it was kind of serendipitous because I was at the Nashville Card Show, and I walked up to their booth. They were, a dealer there, as they are at a lot of shows. And I walked up to their booth, and we were just casually talking, and they said, hey, by the way, we're opening up a card shop in Atlanta. And I said, oh, really? And they said, yeah, actually, I said, where is it going to be? And they said, well, it's, going to be nearby. And I said, oh, that's great. And they said, yeah, actually, we're going to go sign the lease on Monday, right when we get back from the Nashville Card Show. And I said, actually, don't go sign the lease on Monday. Come to my office and talk to me instead. And then you can go, we'll see how that conversation goes. And then you can decide if you want to sign the lease or not after that. And so it was just over a year ago that conversation took place. And it is a major process opening up a card shop, especially a big card shop, right? I mean, our shop is 14,000 square feet, which is going to make it maybe the biggest in the world. I don't know if that's officially true or not, but it may be the biggest in the world. And so, finding the right location for that and getting all the pieces in place, we hired a really top quality architectural design firm, to spec the whole thing out. We spent months on the architectural plans to get this thing, really tailored in and just right. And then going through the process of obviously permitting and hiring general contractors and getting that process underway. And then, figuring out distribution and product selection and all of the buying and everything like that. It's a process. So we've been in the process now for a full year. And we've got about, at this point, hopefully just under 3 months to go before the shop actually opens. Our target open date is January 26th, which is the first day of Culture Collision, which is one of the big shows in Atlanta. So our idea is to open up on the day that Culture Collision starts, which would be a lot of fun.
So you said your partner's name, Ryan and Carter?
Yes, Ryan and Carter. Yeah.
Ryan and Carter. So, I mean, these guys went from maybe opening a small shop, 2,000 square feet, to this massive project that you guys have going on. And, I saw a video where you guys are in there and you're showing what all the different areas you were doing the walkthrough. Here's going to, what everything going on. And I mean, this isn't a car. This is like a card wonderland. I don't even know if there's a card shop, but there's all these other things going on in there. It must have been a massive mindset shift for these two guys to switch from, your standard LCS to CardsHQ. And I love the name because it seems like it's going to be literally Sports Cards HQ, at least in your geographical area. How have they adapted to this? And is there anything else you'd like to tell us about these guys besides the fact that they're, hobby entrepreneurs and have been?
Yeah, well, so they had a choice to make, right? So yeah, their store was going to be 1,000 square feet. And it was going to be the two of them. So they were going to own all of it, and they had saved up some money to do this shop. And so, they were excited about getting to do their own thing. And so I said, what I presented to them was the opportunity to do something on a much, much grander scale and to affect the hobby on a much greater level. I hope that this card shop, I really, really hope, like, the greatest outcome for me of this card shop would be if this raises the bar for what the card shop experience becomes in the future everywhere. Like, that would be incredible. There's a lot of card shops around the country that are doing things really well. And I've traveled and seen, I've been in the fortunate position of being able to go to a whole bunch of card shops in a bunch of cities across the country. And I've seen I've seen great things that different card shops are doing. And I absolutely borrowed ideas, from the best card shops that I've seen in the world, and took those ideas as inspiration and built on them inside our shop. I hope other card shop operators in the future are able to do the same. I hope that people see what we're doing, and I hope that they're inspired by what we're doing. And then I hope they go create card shops of their own that, take what we're doing and try to build upon it to make it even better. And that doesn't mean that, every card shop has to be some mega, 10,000 square foot card shop. But I think there's elements of what we're doing that could be applied into stores of all size. We're very focused on the experience. I mean, experience is the number one word of the day for us. Like, it's customer experience. What is the experience like coming into the shop? We want people to come in and linger, and we could talk more about that. But going back to your original question, I presented Carter and Ryan with all of this, and I said, look, here's the choice, guys. I said, you can either have a smaller part of a potentially really, huge thing that maybe sets the standard, if all goes well, really sets the standard for the hobby going forward, or you can have 100% of what you were already going to do. And that's the choice that, you guys have to make. And ultimately, Carter and Ryan were really intrigued by that concept of leveling up the hobby as a whole and, letting others see what was possible and inspiring others. And so they decided that they were going to kind of put their own plans on the shelf and join with me, and we were going to do this thing together.
Well, I think of it like restaurants in a way. You got 500 square foot restaurant, 1,000 square foot restaurants, then you got 10 and 15,000 square foot restaurants. And so while CardsHQ will likely sounds like it's going to set a new standard for what a card shop can be based on the experience, I think that's pretty awesome. It's not going to be replicated everywhere all the time by all the other LCS entrepreneurs that are going to come out there, but maybe parts of it will be. And I think that's pretty cool. So the location, now you've talked about the location a little bit. Tell us a bit about where it is and why it's important.
Yeah, our location's in Atlanta, right near the baseball stadium. So the Brave Stadium in Atlanta, they built up this new stadium and this whole area around it called the Battery. 5-6 years ago now, maybe that all opens. And it's a wonderful part of town. So we wanted to be up there in that general area. Obviously, the Braves, a great franchise, very well attended, top 5 attendance in Major League Baseball. So, we kind of looked in that general area. We're within a mile of the stadium, which we're super excited about. We're in a really high traffic area. If you've ever been to Atlanta, I-75 is like one of the major interstates. And then I-285 is the interstate that goes around the city. And we're real close to that intersection of I-75 and I-285. So basically the shop is easy to get to, relatively speaking, right? Atlanta traffic can always be a little bit of a thing, but like it's very accessible from all parts of Atlanta. So whether you're downtown, midtown, or whether you're up in the northern suburbs, or whether you're in Buckhead, no matter where you are, you can get to the shop. Our hope is that it turns into, a bit of a tourist attraction. And we're hopeful that people watching, maybe having a reason to come into Atlanta for a business conference or sporting event, and then they take the trip to see CardsHQ as part of their visit. But we also recognize that there's going to be a lot of people who want to see this card shop who aren't ever going to make it to Atlanta. And so that's also another big part of the mix of what we're doing is the live streaming capability, where the entire shop is going to be live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is also something that's kind of groundbreaking that I've never seen any card shop do before.
Is that with staff on site?
Yes.
So there will literally be people in there 24/7 working the shop, catering to online customers. Will the doors be locked such that customers can't come in between, like in the late hours of the night, early hours of the morning?
Correct. Yeah. The retail store itself will have, relatively traditional hours. It's going to be open from, generally 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Will be kind of the hours. So if you're in Atlanta, you're coming in the store, between, kind of a 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. But we're going to have a team in the store 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so, the doors will lock to the retail customers, but the store lights will remain on. And we're going to continue to be live in the aisles of the store, showing the store to people and touring them up and down the aisles of the store and selling cards live out of the showcases. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, that's new. That's new and interesting, but it's also, it's in line with where the world is going with technology. We can shop online 24/7. You're just another destination now, with CardsHQ being another destination online where people can go shop 24/7 if they want to, versus eBay or ComC or PWCC or wherever else. So Amazon and all the other online shopping platforms. So
and it will be more than just a website. It's going to be it's going to be a live stream. So it's going to be an entertaining show. And again, going back to the word experience, like we're trying to build the entire store around an experience, whether you are physically in the store or whether you're watching online. So, you see a lot of, like, if you go on live streaming apps like Whatnot or Fanatics Live or Loop or eBay Live or, many of the others, you see people that they're at a desk, right? They're at a desk, whether they're doing breaks or they're showing cards for sale. If they're doing auctions on cards, they're always at a desk. And we said, how do we take that concept, but instead of being at a desk, how do we actually be in the aisles of the card shop? And how do we give the person watching the stream the experience as if they had walked in the store and they were browsing up and down the aisles of the card shop? So that's what we're looking to do. I think it's going to be a really great experience for people that are watching. And hopefully they get a feel like, hopefully it's entertainment where they get to sit back and see a whole bunch of cool cards, just kind of like how they walked into a card show and they get to browse the aisles and see a bunch of cool cards. We're going to bring that to them.
A virtual card shop. That sounds. I look forward to seeing what the execution is like on that. I'll definitely check it out. Be curious to see how you guys roll that out. Let's go to some comments and then we'll start talking a bit about some other things. But want to thank the sports card therapist for joining us, Jake Dahl. Irish Flyers. We'll see you shortly at the Expo. See Eddie B, what's going on? Good to have you for a live vintage card collector. Good to see you, Jake. West Texas, good to see you. Mike, Professor is here. Cage Lawyer Minion in the Heezy for Sheezy. Good to see you. Curmudgeon, Nick Chen. Clay Phillips, what's going on? Mark Santucci had a couple 2 week good weeks off. Thank you very much. Stale Prod in the house. Hockey Barn. Brent, Deep Value Investor, what's going on? Steve Menzie in the house. Good to see you. Steve runs the Sport Card Expo in Toronto. We'll be seeing you in a few days. Steve, good to see you. Busting Pack says you should try a blaster box vending machine. Any vending machines planned for CardsHQ?
Yeah, not in the initial plan, but those things are cool. Those things are really cool. There was a house here in Atlanta. I don't know if you saw on social, Jeremy. There was a house in Atlanta that teamed up with Dave and Adams and Fan Stand, which is one of the companies that makes those vending machines. And they set up in the front yard of their house. They set up on Halloween. They set up two humongous vending machines. And so when kids came up to trick or treat, instead of getting candy, they got to go up to the vending machine and get a pack out of the vending machine. And
That's
that was the trick or treating. It was super cool. And it was all run by one of those card vending stands. So those are neat.
Very good. The professor has an idea for a reference library at CardsHQ that includes books that he has learned about on my channel. Very nice, professor. There's an idea. Jeff, Mark Santucci, will you be selling hockey? Yes. I know you're trying. How's that coming along, Jeff?
It's good. And thank you for the introduction, Jeremy. So, I know one of the criticisms we get at Sports Card Investor, and it is a fair criticism, is that we don't do very much hockey coverage. You don't hear us talk about hockey a lot. And to be honest, we're down here in the South, we're in Atlanta, and
two hockey teams come and go from there already.
It's never stuck. It's never stuck in Atlanta. And sadly, for whatever reason. And so I just don't follow hockey, with the same degree of
it's understandable. It's
interest as the other sports.
What's funny though, Jeff, is that both teams, I'm originally from Winnipeg. I live in Calgary now. Both Atlanta teams, the Atlanta Flames went to Calgary and the Atlanta Thrashers went to Winnipeg. So both Atlanta teams have ended up being the teams, the franchises at least, that I became fans of. So
there you go. So there's a little part of Atlanta in your blood there. I like that.
There.
We do recognize that there are hockey fans in Atlanta. And so we definitely will have hockey for sure. It won't be as big of a section as the other sports, but we will have hockey. We are working right now with Upper Deck to get distribution from Upper Deck. So we're going to have Upper Deck products in the store, which we're really excited about as well.
Good. Okay. Brent says, the sports card investor investing in the hobby like no others. Well, and I want to talk a bit about the investment going into this and, with where the market is at right now, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that right away. Foul 5 ball. I think I said hello to you. Hello again. The professor says that the card father, he's talking about Rob Veras at Burbank, doesn't do breaks in his shop and is on record as to why he doesn't. Why is CardsHQ not listening to the card father? In that question, I'm like, well, why would you listen? I mean, you take advice, you pick and choose. You're your own person. You have your own business model. But any thoughts on, why you are going to do breaks in your store versus where maybe Rob decides not to?
Yeah, Rob, first of all, has been a great inspiration. I've learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot from Burbank Sports Cards. Fantastic shop. Rob is very against group breaking. He thinks that it is, essentially gambling, and thinks that it's the wrong way to introduce people to the sports card hobby because they can buy into a lot of breaks and end up, with a bad outcome as a result of that. I get where he's coming from. I really do. And I think a lot of what he's saying has truth behind it, that there can be a gambling element to breaking, which isn't necessarily the best foot to put forward. At the same time, the flip side argument on that is that every single card in our hobby starts by coming out of a box. If nobody ever bought and ripped boxes, there would be no cards, right? So the general stance of like being anti boxes and anti breaking, it's kind of like, well, that's the hobby. Right. Like everything comes out of boxes. The breaking thing, I get, it can really turn into gambling sometimes, but on the other hand, it can make it more affordable for people to get into high-end breaks that otherwise maybe couldn't afford getting into a high-end break. I mean, I speak for myself. I love, being in a break of a high-end product like Topps Dynasty or Panini National Treasures or Flawless. But those boxes are wicked expensive. And I don't want to go buy a whole box of Flawless. That's like, the return on that most of the times is suicide. But being able to join a group break and buy the Atlanta Falcons, because I want to see if I can get like a Desmond Ritter card or, something like that. Like that's exciting for me. And yet it's a much more affordable way of approaching it. So, I understand both sides of the argument. And I think what I would say is that we are going to do breaking, but that we're going to approach it with a lot of professionalism, a lot of care. We're not going to have spinning wheels, and we're not going to have, we're not going to do mystery packs. We're going to try to do it in just kind of a real, like, honorable way, I guess you would say.
Well, I'm grateful for people who participate in breaks, because I don't, but that's where a lot of my cards come from. Like you said, they have to get out they have to be broken out into the wild somehow. So I'm always happy that people are breaking cards, and I can then buy the singles, and then they take the money and they go into more breaks, whatever floats your boat. Hello to Stukes. Perk, good to see you. Dan's been, I'm going to bring this comment up because I just don't think it's really fair, but Dan says that it takes a special level of narcissism to think that in your first 5 years in the hobby, you're going to change the way the decades-old card shops are going to do business. Well, my understanding, Geoff, is that you've been in the hobby almost your whole life. I think you worked at a card shop when you were younger as well. And the other thing that I would say to this comment, and I'm gonna start with this, Geoff, is that it takes sometimes a fresher mind to innovate and evolve and push the envelope a little bit and try something new. So personally, I don't see it the way Dan does. I see it as a special level of confidence and the willingness to take risk, to come in and try to evolve the hobby. I personally commend you for it. I don't agree with this take myself, but Dan's entitled to his opinion. Is there anything that you'd like to say about that?
I mean, look, I respect the history of the hobby. My first job ever was in a card shop when I was 14 years old. I did lose touch with the hobby for many years, and I got heavy back into the hobby about 5 years ago. And I instantly saw the fact that I wasn't in the hobby and I got back into it. I instantly saw things that I thought could be better and that I thought could be improved. And one of the first things that I saw was there was no reliable transaction data sources, no way to chart what cards were doing in the secondary market. It was really difficult to understand what a fair comp would be on a card. And I said, this has got to change. And that was the impetus for creating Market Movers, for creating the Sports Card Investor app. The Sports Card Investor app, by the way, a completely free app. It is the #1 most downloaded, installed, and used app in the sports card hobby. #1. And it is 100% free, and it allows you to look up recent sales for over 2 million cards. It's our free app, and then Market Movers is our paid one, which goes even further with the data and lets you look up any card, not just 2 million. And you know what? The hobby didn't have any of that stuff back when I got into it. It's not just my own products. After we launched, you then saw others like Card Ladder and Card Hedge and other products like this. You mentioned earlier, Center Stage. I think they're a sponsor of your show, and there's others like that have all come along after we launched ours back in early 2020. And I think that started a trend of data and analytics and understanding the market of sports cards. And so I think having the outside perspective helped in that case. And I hope it does the same with the card shop as well. No, I'm not a 30-year veteran card shop operator, but I think I'm bringing some ideas to the table that I think are going to look at improving the way that card shops, have operated. And by no means, there's many great card shops and many great operators that are doing a fantastic job. We're just simply trying to take a lot of the good ideas we've seen out there and build upon them and do something unique and better that we hope raises the bar.
Well, you've also partnered with 2 other independent minds, I believe, who are going to be helping you run the shop. It's not like it's just the Geoff Wilson store. So that's a good thing as well. We're going to go through some more comments here. Phil asks, will you buy back the Will Greer collection you pushed and made me buy? Which I hear you getting a lot of,
you know what, Phil?
I hear you getting a lot of that on the Will Greer thing, but I mean, no one has ever spent money out of my pocket. And if I make a decision personally to buy something, I'm going to take responsibility. I'm not going to pass it off. Even if my financial advisor puts me in a certain mutual fund or a stock, I have signed that over to him, that right. And I'm not then going to, call him out on that. I might have a discussion and say, what are some other options? But I don't know that you're in that same position. I know people like to blame you sometimes for that, but I think it takes a more mature mind to take responsibility for themselves when they're the ones doing it. But go ahead and respond.
Phil, here's what you can do. Right now, go grab your Will Greer selection that you supposedly have. Write your name down, Phil, on a sheet of paper. I want to see those Will Greer cards with the name Phil. Take a photo, Send it to me tonight on Instagram, and I will buy every single card in your collection for what you paid for it. How about that, Phil? You got to send it to me tonight, though, and it's got to have your name with those cards.
Wow, that's going above
every single one. Put it, clip it. And if Phil does it, if Phil actually has a Will Greer collection and he sends it to me and shows me what he paid for the cards, and if I don't do it, then Jeremy can call me out. Everyone on the internet can call me out.
We will call you out. Something tells me that he doesn't have any Will Greer collections, any Will Greer cards anyway. But I guess we'll find out if he does. He just got his money back, and that's all too generous from you. Dan's Vintage said, when you're bleeding money by paying employees to work when there's no sales, the 24/7 will have to end. That might have been before you explained what that is, because obviously you're not just looking to bleed money. You're going to have a crew on that will be, if there's no sales, you will stop that, I would think, obviously, right? Or how would that work?
Dan seems like a really fun guy to hang out with.
He's Dan's a great contributor to the show. Often, I guess he just has an issue with you, Geoff.
He's a ball of optimism tonight, Dan. I appreciate the optimism and support. Look, like everything else in life and in business, do I know that this is all going to work? Absolutely not. Are we going to open up the shop and figure out that certain things work well and certain things don't work, and we're going to have to make changes and adjustments? 1,000% yes. Is 24/7 selling going to work? I don't know for sure if it will, but we're sure as heck going to try it. I hope that it will. And you know what? With the way that the hobby's growing in Asia and with the way that the hobby's growing in Europe, I would, I've looked at some data. I've looked at some stats. I've looked at who's doing online shopping at 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning. You got to think bigger picture, Dan. You got to think bigger picture. And I think you might be missing the boat on this one a little bit, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, Brent here says, imagine if every innovative person just said, well, that's how it's always been done. It's like the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like to think if it ain't broke, how can we make it better? And that's how innovation happens. And maybe that's been a bit of an issue in the hobbies, that we haven't had innovation, a lot of innovation. We've had some, I don't want to say we've never had, but we haven't had some real innovation in the LCS world in quite some time. The LCSs didn't change for 40, 50, well, from my early 80s, visiting my first ones, and right through until the last 5 or 6 years. So,
Jeremy, one thing we're going to do is just so simple. This is so simple. And this was not my idea, but talk about innovation. So this summer I went to Japan, and in Japan, I traveled around and saw a bunch of different card shops, sports cards and TCG stores throughout Japan. Of course, they've got the Mint stores over there, which is their big chain of sports card shops. There's a bunch of locations throughout Japan. I visited several of those. I visited a bunch of other stores as well, other brands, TCG stores, that kind of thing. And one thing that just like instantly stuck out to me was that in Japan, all of the cards are displayed vertically. Mm-hmm. They don't have showcases that are low to the ground where you look over top and you peer down into the showcase. They don't have that in Japan. In Japan, all of the card displays are upright. And I saw this and I'm like, why in the US are all of our card shops, all of them, have these displays where you have to peer over and it's hard to see things below the top row? Like you got to kind of, do that to like see things on the lower row of the showcase. It's not a great customer experience. Meanwhile, in Japan, it's wonderful to browse the shops in Japan with all of the cards that are upright. So I said, we got to do this in our shop, right? But then I found out that none of the showcase manufacturers in the US have that model of showcase. It doesn't, like, no one in the US has it. So we had to have it custom manufactured. We spec'd out. I sent photos of what these showcases looked like in Japan, and we had to have them designed out and custom manufactured so that we could get upright showcases in the US. And so that's just like an example of a small innovation that wasn't even our own innovation. It was inspired by what's going on in a different country that we're going to bring to the US. And I really hope that when other card shop owners in the US see that, I really hope it inspires them to rethink some of the showcases in their shop to be vertical instead of flat and low, because I'm telling you, it's a better experience.
Well, right here, Sumo Manko says, glad to see you're mirroring some of the Japanese store sale approach. They are fun destinations when visiting Japan. So there you go. Maybe you visited the stores that he is aware of. Collector's Dream, Orlando says, I'm in Florida. We'll drive up to Atlanta and check out the store. Filmington in the house. What's up, Phil? Mookie Chilson, good to see you as well. Skeppy, good to see you. Darren, what's going on? Hobby Champ says, Jeff, how will you traverse the gray area of running a card pricing app while selling cards in a more official way? Respectfully asking.
No, it's a great question, right? Well, I mean, obviously, so right now our card pricing app is obviously all based on data from online auction houses like eBay and, everything like that. We've got eBay, Golden, PWCC, MySlabs, Heritage, and Pristine all feed into our pricing app. So obviously that will continue to be the case, right? So we'll continue to have all of those data sources. And we'll reference that, obviously when pricing our own cards, we're going to use the app to reference that just as we do with our own, with our own cards. What's going to be interesting, do we feed our own sales data? Do we make our own sales data transparent for people to see? Like, do we take our own data of cards that get sold in the store and feed that in? It's interesting. It's an interesting concept. We've actually talked in the past to some other card shops like Burbank about could we get their sales data so that we could also have like in-card sales data within our app. So it may be something that we pursue. But I definitely, we have a totally different team working on the data product than is the sports card shop. So they're completely separate teams. So, I mean, I don't think there's going to be any type of conflict of interest. Obviously we take data integrity very seriously and we'll continue to do so.
Well, but that people will find conflicts of interest for you. So, but all you can do is your best at that. Michael H, what's going on? Vintage wants to know, are you planning on doing much with vintage or mainly ultra modern?
Definitely vintage will be in the shop as well, for sure. I mean, there will be more ultra modern because obviously that transacts more often and there's just a lot more of it. It's easier to source, but we absolutely will have vintage in every sport. That's something we want to carry as well.
Yeah, great. Jerry Hodge, what's going on? Looking forward to seeing you at the expo. Yankees fan says, good luck, Jeff, on your new venture. Fire Sports Cards. Honestly wish Jeff the best of luck with the shop. He could have invested in a million other things, but decided to invest in the hobby. Good luck. Brent says, funny how people hate him for being an investor, and now he's literally investing in the hobby and people still hate. Pretty funny, and I'm not a Jeff defender. West Texas, I've been in sports cards for over 40 years. Sorry, but we need new ideas to get the youth. We were so stagnant before COVID. Yeah, I think there's some, that makes sense to me. Vintage says, I'm not an SCI homer, but respect Jeff for wanting to grow the hobby. I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I think it's you're gonna provide this new experience. And it might be, maybe there'll be copycats. Maybe people will do what you did. They'll take certain aspects of it and implement them in their own card shops. Now, listen, you have, I think I've seen that this is like a $3 million investment. Did I see that right?
Yep.
Okay. So
probably could be a little more than that now that we're into construction. I'm starting to get hit with all these change orders and everything like that. But that was the original budget. Okay.
Well, so call it 4. Let's call it 3 million plus, whatever it is. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to put at risk. How are your thoughts right now with respect to where the market is at? I mean, the market is always cyclical. We have cycles within we have small micro cycles within the macro cycles. And right now, I think we seem to experience some dip in prices. But it's also a time of year. And I think I saw your video lately talking about how these are the quiet months. Oftentimes, I think it might start to ramp up with Christmas. People are buying presents for each other and that. But nonetheless, if we are, kind of going back to 2019, early 2020 levels, what are your thoughts on that, considering you do have 3 million plus in capital sitting there at risk?
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple of, so I'm optimistic, right? And I've been optimistic for the last few years. And at times I probably have been too optimistic. I'll be the first to admit that about, the market and card prices. But one thing that makes me feel really, really good is that while prices have really dropped, obviously significantly on the secondary market for a lot of cards over the last few years, transaction volume remains strong. People are still buying. They're just not willing to pay the prices that they were, previously willing to pay, right? There's still a lot of people buying a lot of cards. There's a lot of transaction volume taking place. All of the online marketplaces are getting good transaction volumes. Things are selling. They're just not selling for what people were willing to pay in the past. Card shows, tremendous attendance at card shows, continues to be great attendance at card shows, right? And then you've got, of course, the whole factor of Fanatics coming in and the marketing they're going to be doing and everything like that. I actually think the fact that prices have fallen and the fact that now cards and wax are more affordable actually makes this more attractive to do right now. We are the vast majority of cards in our shop are going to be between $1 and $500. We're not going to be a high-end, shop. We're going to have no $10,000 cards in the shop. Not a single one. That's not what we're going after. I know I own a lot of those cards, but that's not what we're selling in the shop, right?
I'm not going to hold you to that, Geoff, because there is something to be said for having a few pretty valuable pieces in there. Even just to bring people in or to look at, talk about. Hey, come check out this one over here. We really have none. I got to think you'll have a couple.
Maybe we have a few more as almost a little bit of a museum piece, but that's not what we're building our business model around. We're building our business model around affordability and high transaction volume of affordable cards. That's what we're building our business model around. And we want to do the same thing with wax. One thing that I like about Topps and Fanatics gaining more and more of the market going forward is their products are more affordable. Their products are cheaper than Panini. Panini's products are expensive. Topps and Fanatics products tend to be a lot more affordable. If you look at what the average, if you look at a box of Topps Chrome versus a box of Prism, massive magnitudes of difference in terms of pricing of those types of products. And I think the affordability is going to be a really good thing. I want people to be able to walk into the shop and buy a box for $100. I want them to be able to buy, I want to have retail product too, where they can walk in and buy a blaster for $30. And I want them to be able to walk in and have a whole bunch of, buy a whole bunch of really attractive cards that they like and walk out and have only spent $80 or $100. We're going to have a lot of value bins. We're going to have a lot of dollar bins. We're going to have a lot of great cards in the $30, $50, $100 range. And so, that end of the market, I still believe is strong. And I believe that end of the market's going to remain strong. The price drops that you're seeing, obviously you're seeing, cards that people are either really, really high-end ultra modern cards or cards that people are speculating on, cards that people are dropping a lot of money on. Those are the ones that you stand to lose the most on with how the market adjusts, right? Yeah. But $30 cards, it tend to be a little bit safer, right? Especially if they're big name players. And we're leaning into that as well, right? We're leaning into, I love nothing more than a whole showcase of really cool looking Tom Brady cards and Wayne Gretzky cards and, guys from every single sport that are all like $20 and $30 and $50. That's the type of thing that I think is going to be, has been strong, is going to continue to be strong, etc.
Well, I think I'm with you in that. I think that while some prices are coming down on cards, it does make more cards affordable for more people. And that I think is going to help push the market back in the other direction, because it's never going to stay in one place. It's always going to be cycling. It's just the nature of any market. And so I think you're right. I think it's probably better for an LCS. The cards are more affordable for people, and you're not turning away customers because you can't get or get what you do get. You have to sell it, $2,000 boxes of Prism like we saw in the past. And now you're just pissing people off and they don't want to come back into the hobby. So I think that's good. Dan's Vintage says, Geoff makes a very good point about transactional volume and how card show attendance. I agree that the hobby is fine. It's just a buyer's market right now. So Dan's turned it. All
right, Dan and I are friends now. Thanks, I love you, Dan. I love you, Dan.
Dan's always good in the chat here. Neil, Irish Flyer says, free idea, Geoff. Leather couch lounge area for customers to rip wax and hang out. Personal break areas with phone stands for customers to break their cards for their social media. I feel like you've got that on the plan. You've got various different areas. Can you take a minute and just tell us if that's already addressed?
It is 100% on the plan. I love the idea, Irish Flyers. We love the idea for sure. And we are 100%. That's a big part of the plan. We want this We want this to be a shop where people come in and they spend the afternoon, which isn't the case with a lot of card shops. Like a lot of card shops are more transactional. Now, granted, a lot of them don't have as much space, right? We have a lot of space to be able to work with, but we're very much designing it. So like, if you come into our shop, I don't want you to come in and, you know, I mean, sure, if you want to come in and grab something and leave, fine. But what I actually really want is I want you to come in and linger, and I want you to hang out, and I want you to watch some games, and I want you to open up a couple of boxes, and I want you to do a live stream from the shop. I mean, that is what I want. So hopefully we're creating the environment that really encourages people to do that. You know, trading is going to be allowed in the store. It's going to be encouraged in the store all the time. Even if you walk into the store and you don't buy anything, bring your cards in, trade with other collectors, hang out. It's going to be encouraged all the time. So, you know, that's the type of environment we want.
It's a nice environment. I've been to card shops where they just want you in and out, and it's not as welcoming. So Brent says, oh man, not having some high end is a miss. I think should have a Geoff Wilson collection section. But then Simon says having high end is asking for theft and will greatly impact the insurance he needs to pay for the shop. There's another comment similar to that. Vintage here says, smart move not to have extremely expensive cards, makes you a big target for thieves. So there's the pros and the cons, but something tells me that you will have some big cards in there and they'll just get locked up in the safe at night, or who knows how you'll figure out the security. But I think that I'm not going to hold you to that comment that, Geoff, that there won't be any 5-figure cards on the shelves. I think that there probably will be. Are you going to be doing any trade nights? Michael H. Trade night kind of did, but not. Anyway, he mentions trade nights. Any plan to? Is it just a constant trade night in CardsHQ, or are you going to have events as well?
I'm sure we'll do special events. I'm sure we'll do that as well. But we do also want to encourage, like, just on an average Saturday afternoon for people to come in and trade cards. So that we will be set up for people to do that all the time. But I'm sure we will have special events as well.
Mookie says, Geoff, what about grading? Will you be group submitting? Maybe you can get a tag machine to grade on site.
I'm going to blow everybody's mind in this regard in a couple of weeks, but I can't talk about it tonight, Jeremy. I got a little secret up my sleeve, Jeremy. I got a little secret up my sleeve. Can't talk about it tonight, but we got a plan. We got a real big plan. All
right. Well, you got a big smirk on your face, so look forward to figuring out what that. I know a bit about some of your relationships, so you never know what. I look forward to hearing the announcement. Geoff, CardsAH would be great location to do athlete signings as well. Any plans for that? Have you already started to make any progress on that front?
We haven't, but I agree. That'd be fun. You know, we want the store to have a lot going on and a lot of events, and, you know, doing some athlete signings in there could be a cool thing to do. So haven't explored it yet, but I do like the idea of CardsAH.
Darren says, and this was a question I had for you in terms of, you know, if this goes according to plan and you're hitting some of your projections and, you know, the hobby remains healthy and stable, will you plan to open up more locations? And if so, where would you consider, or if you're willing to mention, I guess?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so, you know, obviously one step at a time. And our first thing that we want to do is really create this great experience in Atlanta, and also create the great experience online for the people who are virtually, you know, shopping you know, with the live streaming experience that we're going to have. If we feel like we've successfully done those things, then we'll look at what's next. And I don't know if what's next is more shops across the country. Maybe it is. Or if it's expanding our virtual presence, or maybe it's some combination of both. So I'm not totally sure, but obviously I would love to see it grow beyond just what the initial is going to be. But I also think what the initial is going to be pretty good. And I think we need to make sure we get that right first.
All right. Well, I think it's good to be prudent and diligent that way for sure. Ziggy No, hello to you. And Jake Dahl says, Geoff, if you don't have a certain card in shop, will you be able to get it for us? I mean, that's almost godly type of thing to be able to just get a card anytime. But Geoff, in the context of this, also speak to liquidity. I know that, like, Rob Barris of Burbank, he's always talking about liquidity and how important that is. Can you just, in the spirit of Jake Dahl's question, add your liquidity discussion to that, if you don't mind, please?
Yeah, 100%. Liquidity, I think, is a huge thing for card shops. And that's one of the biggest things I learned from Burbank and, you know, Rob and Ryan out at Burbank. they are constantly buying, and buying serves a really important purpose. Not only does it obviously allow them to have fresh inventory in the store all the time, and which we want as well, but it also puts money back in the community, which then allows people to buy new cards they want, right? So being able to, cash people out of cards that they don't no longer want for whatever reason, and allow them to then get into cards that they then would prefer, that's a huge part of the function of a card shop, in my opinion. It's going to be a huge part of what we're doing. So that whole model of like constantly buying is big. We've got two built into the store design. We've got two dedicated buying offices that are we're going to have buyers in there. And from the moment we open to the moment we close, we'll have two full-time buyers buying cards, from anyone who walks into the store at any point in time. And we'll be giving people, the option of cash or store credit. And we're hoping to create just a really, we're hoping to definitely increase the liquidity for collectors in Atlanta through what we're doing.
Sounds good. Benny Too Much says, how often are you going to be in the store yourself?
I'll be there a lot. So one of the cool things about the store is our Sports Card Investor Studio, where we film everything. We're moving that into the store, and it's at the end of the show floor, all glassed in. So if you come into the store, you'll be able to see if we're doing our top 5 show or cards on the table or anything like that. We'll be recording it there while the store is open. So you'll be able to watch it being recorded, and the store will be the background for all of our shows going forward. So I'll be there a bunch. And my kids are unbelievably excited. We're going to have a kids trade zone, a dedicated area for kids to trade in the store. And I think my kids are going to drag me to my own store, every Saturday and Sunday, probably to, they're going to want to do trades and hang out there and everything like that. So I'll probably be around there quite a bit.
Simon wants to know, what percentage of time do you spend working on your card-related businesses versus other non-card business interests? It seems like this takes up a big chunk of your time, which it certainly does seem that way.
Yeah, this is the most fun thing I get to do. I spend probably about 75% of my time on it. With the store opening, it is challenging. I'm looking right now at how to handle that, and I'm looking at putting some more management in place around some of my other businesses, because it's going to become difficult to manage. Especially with the shop opening. So yeah. I'll have some things in place for 2024 to make that hopefully a little more able to be balanced, because the card stuff is the fun part of what I got to do. So I want to lean into that as much as I can.
Hat Tricks and Home Run says, is the buying part of the $3 million capital investment, or is it on top of it?
When I originally calculated the $3 million, the buying was part of it. So the build out of the shop and the actual construction of the shop essentially was budgeted at around $1.5 million. And then we budgeted about $1.5 million of initial buying for initial inventory. So that was the $3 million. I can tell you, we're exceeding that on both fronts. The build out of the shop and everything that has to go in it with all the furniture and everything of that nature is exceeding $1.5 million for sure. And then we're going to end up with more than, $1.5 million worth of inventory too. So it will be a little bit greater on both sides.
All right. So we do have a screen share here ready to go. You want to provide some commentary on the state of the market here? We have about 5 minutes left with Geoff, and then we're going to transition over to the Expo preview portion of the show. But yeah, are you ready for that?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to just show, a lot of people have been talking about the health of the market recently, and I did a video on the Sports Card Investor channel not too long ago. I thought it might be interesting to just look at a couple of graphs. Okay. Just to bring it up. If you want to bring the screen share up. So this is market movers. And so here we're looking over about the past year and a half. And what we're looking at here is what we call our SCI 500 index. So the SCI 500 index is 500 of the most prominent cards of all time. You probably recognize all of these cards as we scroll down, and it's a mix of vintage and modern, and then you got ultra modern cards in here as well. And all of these cards they're higher, they're nice cards, but they're also not they're not the highest end. Like, so for example, the Jordan rookie we've got in here is a PSA 8, because that's a little more approachable than like the PSA 9 or 10 is for most collectors. So, these cards, they're nice cards, but they're all, within reach to a degree, right? So if you look at and there's 500 cards in total, obviously you can go through the different pages and see all the different cards that are included in the index. But if you look at what the index has done overall over the last, year and a half, you can see that we had this big dip, which occurred in Q4 of last year. So this is the beginning of September, end of August, beginning of September. And then as we got into September, October, November, we really bottomed out the first week of December. That was the low point of prices on all of these cards. And then it climbed back up as we got into January and February. Now, it never got back up to those same levels, but it at least went back up. And this year overall was, for the most part, pretty steady. Because if you look at where prices were like back in January, so you're right about there, and then you look at where prices were in August, overall, actually, the market was slightly up this year through about August. But now we're seeing this drop again, right? And this is what people seem to be panicked about at the moment. This is the drop that we're seeing now over the last couple of months. But what strikes me is this is largely mirroring the same drop we saw here last year. So I think it's a seasonal pattern. I think it's a cyclical pattern. My guess would be it's going to follow a similar pattern to last year. Prices will bottom out around the beginning of December, and then they'll start to climb. And then January will be a really strong month for the sports card market. That's what my guess is. I don't know for sure if it's going to happen again, but that's the pattern that happened last year. I think we're going to see the same pattern play out again this year, which means that if you're going to a card show like the Sport Card Expo, you're right now likely in a pretty good time to buy. Especially so as we continue to get later into November and into December. So hopefully there's some good things. And market movers, you can also, let's actually take a look. I haven't looked at the hockey index, but I'm kind of curious. I'm going to bring up a couple of these hockey indexes, like 2018 through 20 and 2010 through 2017. And these will take a second to load, and then we'll see them populate in here on the graph. So, so the hockey indexes are the 2018 through 2020 is that lighter blue line, and then the black line is 2010 through 2017. So they're both underperforming. They've dropped more than the just the general index of sports cards over the last 18 months. In particular, the ultra modern, right? The 2018 through 2020, the more recent stuff has dropped the most. But they seem to be, hopefully here we're seeing a little bit of a leveling off. We've actually seen a little bit of an increase in the ultra modern hockey market over the last 3 months, probably due to, the season getting underway and interest starting to build. So hopefully that remains, but it'll be interesting to see what happens when we get into January. And if we are going to see a strong increase like we saw January of last year. And Jeremy, I wanted to mention one thing while we're on here, because this is a pretty cool thing with the Sport Card Expo coming up this next week here. In Market Movers, we just launched currency conversion. And this is something people have been asking us about for a long time, and it's finally live. So all of our Market Movers users, you can switch to Canadian dollars, and you can now look up any card. I mean, it doesn't matter what card you want to look up, modern, vintage, etc. We've got every single card in every single grade that has ever sold in the last few years. It's all here in Market Movers. You can look all of it up and see all kinds of different, you go into sales history if you want to see, the data of other cards that, aren't our featured cards. And as we got every single card for every single player. And of course, now all these numbers you're seeing, these are all Canadian dollars, which is cool because previously it was all US, and people would always complain at the Sport Card Expo. They'd be trying to use our Market Movers app, and they'd be like, this is all US dollars, and they have to do conversions in their head. Now everything's Canadian dollars. So you can look it all up in your native currency, whatever that is. And this is available both in the web and mobile version of Market Movers. By the way, Market Movers is free to try for a week. So anyone going to the Sport Card Expo, download the Market Movers app on your phone, switch it to Canadian dollars, and try it out this week while you're at the expo and see if you like it.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool. Lots of stuff on all that. There are other things going on in the world right now besides simple hobby cycles. So, do exercise caution. I've been saying it for a while, Geoff, for the last while. Right now has always been the best time to buy sports cards when we are in a price declining period of time. And, it just depends on what you think, how low you think it can go, and where when you're ready and comfortable to purchase cards. But we had some, a lot of, like right here, Double D says, well, first of all, collectors never panic. We just keep buying. Sean Red, no panic if you're a collector. I agree with those comments where, I've been buying through the ups and the downs, and hopefully it all just balances out at the end. Nunzi here says, I'm watching 20 minutes behind, but I absolutely love Geoff's response and offer to Phil about his Will Greer cards. Yeah, that was very good. Corey, show your slabs. We'll see you shortly at the expo. All right. Well, listen, Geoff, I think we're good to wrap up with you. Thanks for coming on, and wish you luck with CardsHQ. I do think it's going to be a destination store. I think that it will be a tourist attraction. People are there on business, and if you're in the hobby, you're going to have to. I know I'm going to have to check it out. If and when I'm in the Atlanta area. So, I wish you luck with that. And thanks for coming on. And we're not going to see you at the expo this time, but hopefully we'll be able to see you there in April, although you'll be pretty busy with your store. So we'll see how that goes, but be good to see you there. If not, maybe the one after that.
Yeah, I'll definitely make it back up there sometime soon. The expo is a really special card show. So many nice people, so many great collectors, so many collectors that have been collectors for many, many years. There's a super strong collector base in Canada. You know this, Jeremy, but from someone coming from the US, it's always impressive to see how how many longtime collectors there are up there who just love it. And the expo is it's awesome to see that on display. So have a great time. Appreciate you having me on the show, and look forward to seeing you soon, Jeremy.
All right, Geoff. Thanks. Take care. Bye. All right. Thanks, everybody, for the comments with Geoff. A couple congrats and good lucks to him came through. Scott Nobles, good to see you. Stale Prod, which never was a collector's choice. Not sure what that's about. And Stuke, thanks for that as well. All right. We are going to head into the next segment of the show. We're going to bring out my good friend, Mikey Singer. Mikey is the man behind the man at the Sport Card Expo. You run the darn thing pretty much. Not take anything away from Steve Menzie, but welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Your description was more apt when you said the man behind the man. I'm mostly just I'm basically the man carrying Steve's briefcase and wallet, more as assistant than anything.
Good. Well, hey, good to have you back, and let's bring on Mr. Ameet Acharya in a new spot. Ameet, can you get your head up a bit higher so you're not covered by your very long
camera down
number? Let's actually see what you look like there.
I do love that he's got his booth number up. It shows he's ready. Probably, if I know Ameet, he's pricing right now.
I was actually. I'm still pricing. I still am. Yes.
Right on. Mikey, how are you doing, pal?
Great to be here. Great to also thanks for making me follow up Geoff Wilson, who's a professional content creator. So the pressure is already on before we get here. Right? First half, everyone's hearing him he's killing it out there, and now it's me and Ameet.
Well, you're very well manicured. I looked at him and I went, "Oh, I didn't shave today. I'm pulling it now."
You look clean shaven. Ameet, how are things with you? We keep in touch. We always look forward to the next expo. As soon as one expo ends, we're already looking forward to the next expo. So how excited are you right now to be able to just cardboard nerd out for the week coming up here starting on Thursday?
I've been looking forward to this since we had the last day of the last expo, and you and I have talked many times, as well as many other friends, and I've been bugging Mikey Singer along the way too. I'm actually on pins and needles. I literally, it's like Christmas Day for me, man. I said this on many of your shows. It's Christmas Day. It's like Christmas card day. I love it. I can't wait.
And Ameet will be on the stage.
Yes. I'll be interviewing Tim Getch from ComC at 1:00 on Saturday for all of those of you who are interested at the show.
CEO of ComC. Don't just say from ComC. Not like he's some
You're
colleague
right.
from ComC.
Right.
CEO from ComC.
I hope he isn't watching right now, because that would be a bad blunder.
Anyway. I'm sure Barry is, though.
Barry is around.
Yeah, Barry's in the audience.
I have no doubt. But
I'm sure that'll go just fine. I've had Tim on the show 3 or 4 times. He's a great guest. You'll have a good time. LGC, we're gonna start right here. It says best guest list ever. Reggie Jackson and Ric Flair. Oh, and look, Barry Ma, of course. We knew you were there, Barry. Good to see you, buddy.
Very good time to me.
Good to see you. So let's talk about the autograph guest list a little bit, Mikey, because it is super impressive. It's like it was very impressive, and then you guys advertised 2 or 3 more guys, and it's like, holy, this thing just leveled up. And then another 2 or 3 guys get announced. So tell us a little bit about that and how you guys at the organizing level of the show are feeling about this year's I don't want to say this year's, it's twice a year, but this autograph guest lineup.
So this is the best guest lineup we've ever had. And it's also the lineup with the most VIP and special meet and greets because of the caliber of guests. Like, as you said, we had one person there just said Reggie Jackson and Ric Flair. Then there's Mike Tyson, Carey Price, Dave Keon, Doug Gilmore,
Peter
who are you interviewing? Your eyes lit up before I could even say the name. But Jeremy Lee, our host for tonight, will be doing an interview on stage with Peter Forsberg. Again, there's just a lineup of Hall of Famers. Obviously some current players as well. There's 3 current Leafs who are coming. It's a fan fest for hockey. Obviously every sport is represented, but it's an incredible lineup top to bottom. We've sold, and in line with that, we've sold 50% more pre-sold tickets than we ever had.
Wow. So
it's a huge number ahead. Ticket sales for the autographs are big. We're going to have really, really great turnout. And a lot of people, honestly, I stay in line making sure everything, if you're getting an autograph ticket, most likely during these times, you'll see me there. Be nice. But we really like making people's moments, right? So a lot of times when you're taking pictures or people are getting an autograph sign, it doesn't matter if it's a 10-year-old or a 60-year-old. Sometimes it brings them to tears, and it's really just a special moment to see happen. And some of the athletes, like most of them, are incredible with the fans, right?
Awesome.
And they get it, they get the moment. So yeah, it's really cool. I'm excited.
So, okay, before we go to Ameet, I have one more question for you. This one really is, this is the biggest show ever by square footage as well. The Sport Card Expo, it takes place at the International Center on Airport Road, right by the Pearson Airport in Mississauga, which is just a suburb of Toronto, part of the Greater Toronto Area. And the International Center has several conference halls within it, or halls. And we've always been, not always, but traditionally the expo takes place in Hall 5. Last couple shows after the pandemic, it grew, and we're now in Hall 4, as well as this connector, which is kind of a hall in and of itself. Mm-hmm. But now this time, it's also in Hall 3. So this is a massive Sport Card Expo, 200,000 square feet. If you think about it, the National Sports Card Convention up until the hobby boom was, I think, like 250,000 square feet. So The Expo is basically becoming as big as the National was up until about 2018, if my dates are all aligned, which they might not be, but something like that. So Mikey, tell us a little bit about this expansion and this growth and plans for it, and the excitement, and how will people know that there's all this space, and just speak to all that.
Okay. All right. So I'm excited to get into it. So first off, we started the growth in 2018, and it was just in 3/4 of Hall 5. Since that time, the show has doubled in a half. It is impressively huge. This year, we added a full extra hall just for the grading pavilion. PSA is coming on site to grade for the first time outside of the National. That just doesn't happen, right? So they're bringing down a huge amount of staff. Beckett is going to be there grading again. Tag is there accepting grades. KSA is there. Mint is there. It's really come a long way. We also have a lot of authentication. JSA, DNA, Beckett is all doing authentication on site. So it becomes a huge part. Our stage is moving over to that area. We're adding things like a kids trading zone. So, you know, we went to the National. I'm not going to lie. I went to Geoff Wilson's booth. It was awesome. There was a kids trading zone. It was packed. We want to recreate that same experience for kids to have a space to trade with each other, right? Like there is a huge growth, and I don't want to get sidetracked too much, but there's a huge growth in that young hobby market. So yes, I understand prices are down. To me as a collector, that just means everything for me is cheaper, right? Like I'm a terrible seller, an amazing purchaser. So this really bodes well for me. You know, and I think a lot of people are like that. And look, you can always sell, like lower end cards will always move. They'll always move. They'll always be cash. People will always find a market to buy it. It might not be the highest price, but there's always a market for it. And yeah, so we're creating a lot of fun stuff for the kids there. And then we're going to have a couple of our key contributors who are coming in are going to have booths, like Coach Co is going to be by there. Mojo Sport is going to be by there. I actually have the Megan Boys, which is an entertainment company. They're going to be doing giveaways throughout the days for the kids. Again, handing out cards, making them have a great time, really embracing the fact that the hobby has grown a lot younger. And we want to foster a great experience, a much better experience than maybe we got in the 90s, walking into a local card shop where everything was maybe not above board.
Talk a bit about like new vendors, because at the expo that first had Hall 4, that's where kind of the new vendors were. Hall 5 vendors have been there for a long time. It's sort of a, I don't want to call it a seniority thing, but it's just, you know, if you have your regular spot, you usually stick in it show to show. Are we going to see more new card vendors outside of just the events and the featured tables and that? Are we going to see more new vendors this time?
Oh yeah, there's a waiting list of 40 vendors every year that can't get in, right? Like, and Steve didn't just expand it for the grading area. He's always trying to add more booths, and there's only like, you can only grow so much. And again, like, we're also trying to keep up with the demand in terms of attendance. But yeah, there's going to be new vendors. There's always going to be new vendors. And in fact, like, it's always sad because there's going to be vendors on the outside looking in.
Right.
And we'd love to serve, you know, everyone, we'd love to get you in, but sometimes you just wait and things change. But it's really great. It's great to see. It's really fun. I even see like kids setting up, even some of the local smaller card shows. You see a lot of younger people getting in, setting up their first booth. They're really enjoying the hobby for what it is.
Yeah. Now, there's also an app for the Sport Card Expo. And is that, you know, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it unless it's good for people that aren't at the expo. But for those people that are going to be at the expo, definitely download the Sport Card Expo app. But I'm asking you, Mikey, is there any utility of that app for people who are not going to be at the expo?
Thank you for asking. There is. They'll get to see you up on stage interviewing Peter Forsberg and doing a couple panels. So we'll be streaming all pieces of content that we're doing at the show straight to the app live. We'll also be doing giveaways and contesting. It's always worth it to be part of that community. And look, I get it. You may not be able to travel in, but all of the vendors are on the app. You can reach out. You see something you want in their thing, or you want to connect with the vendor. You know, especially with you two who are quite savvy. For all the listeners who can't make it in, maybe you're in Australia, you love Jeremy's show, you're dying to come into Toronto for it, but you just can't make it. Maybe it's something you want to reach out and make that connection. So yeah, it's definitely worth getting the app. And for the people who are coming, it's a great thing to have. It's a great tool. You can find out all the schedules, the floor plan. It's interactive. So look, as you said, the show is huge. If you're looking for a specific vendor because you've talked to them beforehand, I suggest getting the app. It's the easiest, fastest way to find out where you're going.
Right on.
It's how I navigate the floor. I'm not gonna lie.
So everybody, you can see on Ameet's name bar there, it says booth 734. Ameet and I have been booth neighbors at the expo for well over, I think it's at least 10 years now, Ameet, maybe a bit more. I'm booth 733. I will be booth 733. Ameet will be right beside me. as we always are. It's always a lot of fun. One more thing, Mikey, trade nights. It looks like I'm aware of a trade night on Friday night and a trade night on Saturday night. These are go ahead.
The first night is a hobby appreciation night done by CSC. So that's really, so it's not exactly a trade night. It's more of an event and a party. I mean, both trade nights more of a party. But it's a fan appreciation from CSC, and Mint Inc. is doing their trade night, their annual trade night, which they've been doing with us for, I think this is the 5th time we've done it. It's always on the Saturday right after. The CSC will happen Friday at the end of the show. The Mint, this will be the first time for the CSC event, but this is like I said, the 5th time for Mint Inc. And what's been cool about that is we've seen it grow every single year. This year, I expect it to be up to 500 people. It is also a party in and of itself. It's a little different than your average, like go into a hotel lobby and everyone sits on the floor. There's a ton of tables. It's really a party. There's going to be a lot of giveaways at both nights. Very excited. If you haven't gotten your tickets to Mint Inc. or contacted the CSC people, I suggest you do so. It's definitely going to be a really good time. And it just adds different layers. Like what I can say for Steve and the show, it hasn't only grown in size. He's invested in things like the stage. The stage is Jeremy, I see I'm hanging out with you at different shows across North America now. And you can see the effort and even the streaming out, right? Like the effort and innovation that he brings into the show. And also the new exhibitors, we talked about that. Some of our old exhibitors are really investing. Upper Deck did a 2-level booth last year. That's going to be back. The Upper Deck. Are they
bringing that back again this time?
Oh yeah, the Upper Deck. That is one of the coolest things I've ever seen on a consumer show floor, let alone a hobby show. So it's really cool to see. I'll be quiet because I've been taking up a lot of airtime.
Don't worry, I got questions for Ameet too. Go ahead though, buddy.
Yeah,
Ameet.
I have to say though, Mikey, in all the time I've gotten to know you, you still have the enthusiasm of a young person enjoying the hobby. Like it's a great to see. You're making me smile. And just for everyone who hasn't been to the show or on the show, he is like this 24/7. So just be in awe of it.
He is. So CardsHQ had this question: on a show of this size, what are the bottlenecks for growth? And Mikey, you probably know, but I'm going to guess that it's really square footage and then like capacity, like fire capacity stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's also availability of halls, right? Like we can't just be like, hey, we're going to take that hall too, because at the end of the day, they're also renting to other people. So at the same time, the season's Christmas show and the Cottage Life show is happening next door, right? Like it is hard to find space to get it. Again, Steve building great relationships, and I keep mentioning him. He's the owner of the show, has been able to grow and has had the vision to take the risks because it's expensive, right? It's a huge investment that you make going into this stuff, and luckily it has paid off, and it's been great for the hobby in Toronto, and I think in Canada in general.
So Joe Pro says, can you all say the word process? Go ahead, Mikey, say it.
Process?
Ameet?
Process?
See, I think it's like an American Canadian thing. It's like, is it process or process? I don't know, but there you go, Joe. Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you, buddy.
This is going to be one of those snippets.
The professor says that I assisted the growth and helped get a new U.S. vendor to come booth 508. Is there a time perhaps for the expo can share a special hello to them? Don't know who's at 508, but hello to booth 508, professor.
Yes, hello.
He has this question: will you create a virtual lane where collectors can attend virtually and buy cards from dealers that want to participate in this idea? Mikey, is that tied into the app at all? Or the one thing I'll say about that though, and this, I don't know if this is just a not the best take, but I don't like when I'm walking the floor of a card show and I see a card that's like turned over. And the guy's like, oh, I just, I took a picture and put it on Instagram and somebody bought it. Well, hey, I'm glad you sold your card. That's cool. But I'm like, I came all this way. I'd like to have had a shot at the cards here. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think the problem is, and also second, it's so damn busy, right? Exhibitors don't necessarily have the time to, and we did it. I'm looking at 3 of us who are on virtual events that we did during COVID. You guys didn't skip a beat. You were sharing a booth beside each other in the virtual world on each other's streams. So we've done it, and it's maybe something we can look on as an addendum or an offline event. But during the live event, what we do to make it hybrid is streaming the content. Yeah, right. That's what you've got to do. And it just encourages you to come see it. Right. Like it's worth it to take a trip. It is. I was worth it to go to the National this year. Like that show was super cool, very hot, but super cool. Glad I drank a lot of water. But yeah, it's worth it to come to Toronto. It is a beast unto itself and something very neat to see. That's why I'm so pumped, right? That's why I'm so excited.
It is so much fun. All right. Ameet, Vintage Card Collector, has this question. We're going to give it to you. Is the percent of hockey at the Expo decreasing much?
I would say
Ameet, because Ameet walks the floor, so he knows.
I would say it hasn't decreased because of the increase of the square footage. You're seeing other things come into play. So I would say the percentage has been fairly well balanced. As Steve and Mikey expand the show floor, you're going to see this balance out even more. So I would say no, it hasn't decreased; it's increased.
And if anything, you're seeing cooler stuff, right? Like there's stuff coming in. People from Edmonton, people, series collectors of certain things who've scooped up a whole set of a certain, low prints and stuff like that. But there's definitely a lot more. Because I attended the show. There's a lot more basketball on the show floor. There's a lot more football. Yeah, it's cool. And it is still the best. It's going to be the hockey mecca forever.
It is
for as long as it exists.
I would just say, though, that I do notice that we're seeing more, like over the, comparing, say, 2015 to 2020, 21, 22, minus when we didn't have shows because of the pandemic, that we are seeing more basketball and baseball and football relative to hockey. So the amount of hockey is probably remained the same, but I might have a bit of a different observation that I think Ameet did, is that I think that the overall percent of hockey, I think it has come down a bit, Ameet, because we are seeing more vendors allocating showcase space to basketball, baseball, and football. Does that reconcile with you, Ameet?
It does, and I was thinking more along the lines of like the square footage increase. I was thinking there's more balancing, so there might be not as much of a drop. But I do agree there's a lot more basketball, football, and the other thing that's big is non-sport. There's a lot of non-sport on the floor too.
Yeah, but don't forget, Canada has the Raptors, which is all of the country's team. We have the Blue Jays, which is all of Canada's baseball team, and Canada is like NFL is huge in Canada. It's as huge in Canada as it is in any city in the U.S. that doesn't have an NFL team, I would say. Like,
as Jerry Hodget's in the comments, is the CFL going to be playing on Saturday in the show? We can't show stuff like that because we don't have broadcast rights. So you won't see that. But it is huge. So Toronto is 5.5 million people on its own. Right. It is the third largest market in North America. It's definitely a sports fanatic city.
All right, guys. So as you know, if you watch this show, we just lost him. We just lost him. But Leighton Sheldon comes on. He was scheduled to come on during the Geoff Wilson segment, but he had a delayed flight, and he's, I believe, landed in somewhere on the East Coast, New Jersey or New York, and he's at the airport. But he just disappeared on me, so I'm not sure if he's going to make it back or not. But if he does, we're going to bring Leighton on for a short vintage spotlight segment. We'll talk some vintage. He just bought a big collection in Seattle, he told me. I'd like to hear a little bit about that. But until he comes back on, we're going to go to another question here from Perk. He says, do you have any observations from the past few shows over the past month as far as traffic, what's been selling, not selling, etc.? For myself, Perk, I don't really. I haven't been set up at any shows lately. I haven't been set up at a show really since the last Expo in Toronto. I was at the National. But Ameet, do you have any sort of expectations? Like, and I think maybe the question is best framed around hockey right now because the Expo is predominantly a hockey show. And, outside of Victor Wembanyama, right, who's
seems to be all that he's hyped up to be, and will maybe carry that basketball market. But the hockey season has started. Austin Matthews in Toronto started the season with back-to-back hat tricks and has, I think he's up to 10 goals or so right now. We're seeing some big performances in hockey. Connor Bedard is having a decent start. He's not Connor McDavid, but he's having a good start. Ameet, any expectations for you as to what we might see being the hot tickets at the Expo next weekend?
I think you touched on it already. So in terms of hockey goats, those will always be a staple. Bedard is huge, and it's had a huge impact on the hobby already. And actually, it's been a breath of fresh air. He's following like McDavid-like trends. So there's that. I also wouldn't discount what's hot in other sports too, right? There was some talk earlier about Will Greer. Maybe that'll be hot at the show. But hey, we'll leave that there. It'll be, every dealer will have their own flavor of what's hot and what's not, and they kind of curate to their own quote unquote people that buy from them, the customers, of what they think is hot and not. But there's always a deal. So let's placate one thing. There's always a deal to be had. So that's always the hottest ticket in town.
Right on. Mark Santucci says, at the Expo, are people buying hockey cards out of the showcase like Rod Gilbert rookie, Bobby R? Oh, yes, they sure are. That stuff, that's the first stuff to go because that's good stuff right there. The good vintage rookies, there are always people walking the show floor at the Expo looking for their Jean Beliveau, their Guy Lafleurs, their Johnny Busiks, their Glenn Halls, their Jerry Cheevers, their Mike Bossies, their Trottiers, Messiers, Borks, all these things. They're always buying that. That's like the best stuff. So yes, that's what sells, I find, really well, along with the Crosbys and Ovechkins and Gretzkys and McDavids and all that stuff as well. But 100%, that's Bobby Burrell says right here, vintage hockey always sells. It sure does. It sure does.
If I may, Jeremy, there is actually a couple of things that popped in my head after you had asked me the question, and this is my observation from people I know very close to me. A lot of soccer cards were really hot the last few shows. A lot of big deals made on soccer cards, and women's soccer cards were actually surprisingly was something I know a lot of people are asking for. So perhaps that we're seeing a balancing in terms of the genre there.
The sport. Irish Flyer. This is Neil. He's coming up for his first Expo from the US. Best tips for an Expo first timer. Yeah, I visit booth 733 and 734. Neil. Yeah. Definitely come see myself and Ameet. That should be your first stop. But, the same tips for a lot of shows. People laugh, but you got to wear good shoes. Really important. Have cash on you. Don't expect to get out of the bank. Although, Mikey, what can you tell us about the bank machine situation? Like, they always seem to run out of money. I think they've got.
I wonder why. You just said have cash. So it doesn't matter. Like, they can't have an ATM with a limitless amount, right? Like there's a limit.
There's no pipe
if there's a lesson on anything, those two are key, right? Come with cash, and it's okay. Like if you need to top up or whatever, they are being filled throughout the day. They are. I swear. I see that Brinks Pro truck pull up more than most, but bring your cash. Especially because any dealer will probably give you a better deal than if you're doing PayPal. And then, the comfortable shoes thing is no joke. You're walking on concrete. It's 200,000 square feet. You're going to pull 40,000 steps in a day, right? Like you won't even realize it too, because you're bending over. So yeah, that's key. And drink water.
Yeah. How about you, Ameet?
I would say, and Jeremy, you've mentioned this before, and I mentioned it before, but if there's a card that you like, and you see it on day one and you have to have it, don't wait till day two. Just buy it. Because I have seen, and Jeremy's witnessed as well many times, I've seen people come back and say, I'm going to get that card now. I'm like, it's gone. Right? If there's a card you want, just get it.
Yep.
That's my
biggest tip.
That's my my go-to tip right there. Yeah. If it's a Gretzky rookie, well, no, even they're not all the same. Because you might see one that you just love. It's a beautiful PSA 3 or 4 Gretzky rookie. And, if it's that nice and it's in your budget, someone else will buy it. Guaranteed. But, if we're talking about an Austin Matthews young gun, there's probably going to be like 200 of them in the room. You can wait. You can wait till the end and find a deal at the end of the show. So for a rare card or a common vintage card that's really, really pretty for the grade, if you're buying graded cards, don't wait too long because someone else will likely snap it up. It just go, and don't be afraid to, a lot of people, you know, if someone comes up to my booth and they see a price on a card, they say, I'll take that card. I'll take their money. Like, I'll say, okay, thank you. But a lot of other people will say, you know, can you, you know, if I have 270 on the card, they'll say, will you take 250? 99 out of 100 times, I'm probably going to take that 250 on a 270 price tag. So, you know, don't be afraid to negotiate, but I would all at the same time be cognizant that you're not, you know, really lowballing. And another thing I'll say, and this might be an unpopular take amongst vendors, but I have no problem with a customer showing me what they discover on their phone when they're looking for comps, because that's public domain information. And I understand certain people buy in different ways. So, you know, if you're at my booth and you're going to do some price comparison stuff, don't feel like you have to, you know, sneakily do it. Like, just, I'll do it too. And if my prices aren't always going to be right, and some of them are from last show because I haven't repriced everything. So, you know, just don't, I would say, you know, don't feel bad. So some vendors might take offense to that, and that's up to you to decide if you want to proceed to deal with them. But with a lot of, you know, realistic vendors, you can just be really on the up and up about what you want to pay. And there are some cards I have that I'm not going to sell for comps because of whatever reason. And that's my business, why I might not be willing to, but, you know, maybe I just love the card too much, or it's only for sale for a certain price. So in any event, don't be afraid to negotiate.
The other one is card etiquette. So, you know, this hasn't been said before by me, but something that should be brought up, though. If you want to look at a card and you're potentially trying to grade it, ask the vendor if you can actually take the card out of the holder. Don't do it yourself, because some vendors, I will say, I am very sensitive for someone taking stuff out of the holder that I put in very carefully. So be respectful and mindful of that. That's a big one. That's a new one in the last 3-4 years.
And also, this one bothers me because I tend to have a pretty busy booth at the expo, and what I don't like, and I'm not going to get mad about it, but I'm just going to tell you, if you put your bag or your box on my showcase and there are other people around, I'm going to ask you to lift it off, put it on the floor, or I will say, pass it to me and I'll put it back here while you're looking, because I don't want it on my showcase while people are trying to see what I have available. So be careful with putting your bags on other people's showcases, not just mine, but of course, anybody's. Adam Holgate says, can vouch negotiated with Jeremy using comps on my phone. No, I don't. Thanks, Adam. There you go. I'm willing to listen to anything and look at a comp with you. I think a lot of people will. If it depends how motivated the sellers are. So
the other thing is, someone had asked in your chat here that do Canadians take U.S. money? That is yes. The answer is yes. We take U.S. money, not a problem. We often prefer it. We'll just leave it there.
Oh yeah, vintage. Yeah, we love U.S. money.
Yes.
Steve Menzies says no one ever says no to U.S. dollars. He's right. Yeah, we love it. Will we give you the same exchange rate as the bank? Probably not. You know, it might be a little bit more in our favor. And I think that's okay. You're still getting like 25% on your money. But anyway, consider that, like, because it's, you know, the exchange rate is always, it's not like around 1.2 or 1.25. It's like 1.2876 or 1.3425, whatever. So,
and you can always work off US comps, right? Like if you're talking US dollars, it's not like these things aren't priced in US when you're working on comps and stuff. I think that the point is that you can have conversations. And look, the whole booth, there's 254 vendors across the entire show. That's individual vendors, probably like 500 and some odd tables. Every person's going to be different. It's great to have in conversations. And what I've seen a lot more from our vendors is a willingness to teach. So again, a younger audience, people coming back into the hobby, and a lot of vendors having that conversation and teaching more about the hobby. And again, that just retains people. That brings more people back in, keeps more people interested. So it's all positive. Even when you two are perfect examples of people, like you just said, you're giving unpopular opinion about saying you can negotiate. That's teaching the hobbyist on how to get more enjoyment and do better at the show.
And sorry, I mean, I'll get also, like, be nice, be friendly. And then this goes to vendors probably more than attendees. Be nice. You know, people come to your booth, they've made their way to the card show. Like, ask them how they're doing. Well, ask people questions. It's such an opportunity to learn about how everybody approaches the hobby. You know, I love to say, hey, what have you picked up so far? Let me see. And then they show you their cards. And it's like, oh, that, you know, it also gives you an idea what they might be looking for or not. I don't do it for that reason. I really don't. I do it because I want them to have a better time. And one of the ways we have a good time in the hobby is by seeing other people appreciate what we have. Like, I got this card. Oh, someone says, oh, that's awesome. It's kind of like a nice validation. Not that you need it, but it's nice to hear, you know. It's like anything. It's just nice to know that somebody else is happy that you got something, especially if it's something you really, really want. Like, I love when someone says, I was looking for this last card for my set, or I've been waiting for the right Gretzky rookie, and look at this one. I'm like, that's beautiful. Congratulations. Like, way to go. You know, I mean, you're the same way.
Yep. Exact same way. I was going to quickly mention something which was interesting that happened in the last show, which I completely forgot about till now. I had someone offer to buy a card for me using crypto. I don't personally take crypto, but that was a payment that they were going to offer, which was quite unique.
Should have taken it, huh?
Hey, I'm a Luddite. What can I say? I stick to cash. That works.
Yeah, I don't take crypto either. There's a tip for people. Don't offer me crypto unless no, there's no unless. I don't probably should, but you never know. Mark Santucci, do you guys miss the hockey player on the $5 bill? I don't. That's another thing. In my whole world, I only deal in cash at card shows. It's the only place that I ever have cash on me as card shows. Yeah. And $5, it's mostly 20s, 50s, and 100s nowadays anyway. So I'd say, Mark, I probably don't miss it that much because I don't have $5 bills.
And I would accept the $5 bill with whoever's on it, to be quite honest with you. I'm not.
But Neil's right. Canadian money is a lot prettier than US money. It's a little bit more fun. Has more. But you can. Hey, here's one thing you cannot do with US money that you can do with Canadian: build the rainbow. There's no rainbows in US money, but there are in Canadian.
Although the $50 bill is my favorite bill, I will say that.
The reddish.
It's all about all the colors at the bottom, right? Brown and red.
Exactly. So, you guys, let's get your thoughts on kind of what you're expecting for the vibe, the temperature of the room to be at the show. Are we expecting people to be excited, to be more tentative? And I ask because, you know, we're in a unique situation at the Expo because hockey it's beginning of the season. There's a lot of excitement for that right now. Hockey collectors traditionally are more loyal to their cards than basketball and football collectors. I'll always say baseball is the really the foundation of the hobby, but in Canada, hockey is that equivalent. But we are, you know, we've seen it earlier in the show. Hockey collectors collect cards. They are, you know, there are flippers, there are dealers and vendors, but there are collectors, and we love our cards. And so for those reasons, I'm not there might be some doomish, gloomish stuff going on south of the border right now because of, you know, all the football quarterbacks like not doing well. So that ruins the football hobby, or, you know, a couple basketball players not doing well. That kind of ruins the basketball hobby. Not ruins it, but puts a temporary cloud over it, right? That's all I mean. Whereas in hockey, we don't really go through those phases up here in the hockey hobby. So with that context set, Ameet, what are your thoughts? What are you expecting next weekend?
I'll be honest with you. I feel quite insulated because I deal with hockey. I don't see the ebbs and flows like people, or the wild swings. So I'm expecting much of the same. The customers that buy from me and from you, Jeremy, I'll speak for you. You can confirm this, but they kind of stick to what they buy from us, right? It hasn't really changed, and they'll keep looking for the same thing. So I'm not expecting much different from that point of view. I have divested myself from more of the baseball and football that I had in years past, so I can't comment on that per se. But I'm not expecting a wild swing with hockey. I think it's going to be the same guys, look for the same people, nice patches, reasonable price stuff. It'll be fine. I think it's fine.
And the vintage. We will have people looking to build out their vintage Hall of Fame collections and their Gretzky runs and their Howe runs and all that stuff. They're 19, 10, 11, and 12 sets. They're 51 Parker sets. Like, people are always working on these things. Mikey, I mean, Mikey got into the hobby as a consequence of working for the Expo, and now he's right into it. Like,
I blame Steve. My wife yells at me there is cases on cases of cards, and like not even super nice cards, but like, you know, again, true collector. I have found things I like, whether it's Impel 1990 Marvel or 1985 Garbage Pail Kids, or my obsession with purple scope to 95 optic, right? Like, and trying to collect all of them from recent players like of 2016 on. Sometimes Luca is a little more
So
expensive,
what do you,
but
but based on that and the fact that you are, you know, in the hobby, you are in it like authentically, not just because you run the expo with Steve and your team.
Yeah.
But what are you expecting at the expo this week? And Leighton is back there. Leighton, we'll bring out 1 second. What are you expecting, Mikey?
So I'm expecting a ton of excitement. Like, and I don't just say that because, again, I'm here to promote it and it's my job, because obviously it is. But so at school where I go to drop my daughter off, there's like 5 or 10 kids coming up to me and getting excited about the show. I have all my cousins writing to me like, "Are you going to be there? Like, I'm coming with my kid on X day." You know, the hype is there. You know, I said again earlier this show that there's 50% more tickets sold. So I expect it to be a giant celebration of the hobby in Canada. And you've seen it, right? Like, there's going to be a ton of people breaking product. We also lightly touched on Connor Bedard. Like, the hype is real. People are super excited. We saw what happened with the Easter eggs. Like, there's going to be a lot of box breaking in the upper deck. There's going to be a lot of purchases of wax. And then who knows, you know, with Wembanyama literally nearly getting triple doubles and looking like the real deal, I'm sure there'll be a bunch of buzz around that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm always going to be hyped, and especially with, you know, I'm going to get an autograph from Mike Tyson. That's pretty cool. I don't think I'd ever be in that position.
You're always hyped. Bill Web02 says 5 more sleeps, no doubt. Cannot wait, Bill. All right, we're going to bring Leighton on. A little bit late in the episode compared to usual, but we're not going to deny him. Leighton is in his Uber on his way home to the airport. Leighton, talk to us, buddy. How are you? What's going on?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Jeremy. What's up, guys? I wish I could make the expo next week, but my son has school fall break, and I don't think he's going to, at his age, be enjoying the card show more than, you know, like a pool and beach vacation. But I do hope to be up there for the spring one, and I'm happy to be on tonight. You know, it was a little bit of a long day. I've been gone for a couple days on a buy trip, but it was great. So if I could, Jeremy, I'll tell you a little bit about it. And, sure.
Yeah, you're in Seattle, right?
Yeah, I flew into Seattle. The actual collection was in Tacoma. I've never been out there, and it was really just a beautiful area.
So tell us about the collection. We'll do this. We're mid expo talk, so it's a bit of a different veering away than usually when you come on for the vintage spotlight. But I love that you put out the effort. You're coming in from the car, from the Uber. The flight was delayed, everybody. But yeah, let us know a bit about this collection that we can think about and not buy from you at the expo next week.
Sure. Well, like I said, I do hope to be up there for the spring expo. It really is just a wonderful convention. I'm so glad that you guys have so much passion about it, and you know, I'll be there soon. But as far as this collection goes, I traveled thousands of miles because this gentleman had piqued my interest. He had a great collection, but specifically he had some wonderful vintage basketball sets. So without further ado, I'll just rattle it off. So this is what I came home with, and as you can see, it's a little dark in the Uber. About 2.5 hours later than expected, Jeremy. So thanks for being patient. But the gentleman had, and he started collecting about 20 years ago. So he had the following basketball sets: 1948 Bowman basketball complete. Every card is graded by PSA with a George Mikan 5. And then it has a 1957 Topps basketball complete set with a Bill Russell and a PSA 6 that's dead nut centered. Has a 61 Fleer basketball set, 69 Topps, and so on and so forth. But the big one, he has an 84 star with a Michael Jordan graded a BGS 8.5. And as you know, many of the folks who are collecting basketball know, a lot of folks have been flocking to the Jordan Star rookie, and it seems like it's picked up some demand in the last 12 months. And you know, lots of other fun stuff, but that's the highlights. And I was happy to share it here first on Sports Card Live.
Well, so you're telling me you just got all that?
Well, no, there's more than that, but that's the highlights.
But that's amazing. That's amazing. Like that's feels like almost a once in a lifetime kind of purchase where you can get all those vintage basketball sets from the 48 Bowman to the 86, 84 Star, among others, graded, nice grades. Wow. Congrats. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I also collect vintage basketball. So I was explaining to him, it's going to be a tough collection to process because I'm already like processing in my mind, hey, maybe I can make this set work for my collection and I'll sell off that or whatever. But these are good problems to have.
Well, yeah, Michael H says, I will take the Mike. And I was thinking this and the Russell. Yeah, no doubt, Michael. Those are made. I kind of really wish you were, kind of pit stopping on your way to Toronto for the Expo and you would have this at the Expo. You sure you can't make it up? You said you got your son's.
Yeah, no, I have my son, and listen, I love cards, but I love my son a little bit more. So we probably won't make it for this one, but definitely for the spring. Really, it's just such an amazing expo, and candidly, I'm jealous, like seeing all the footage come from there. And you guys nailed it. I mean, like think about the hobby where we're at right now. Wemby's on fire. Connor Bedard, this little nugget that Upper Deck threw in the Series 1. And listen, it's a nice place to be in. With things settling down in the hobby, to have some really good key young rookies kind of driving products.
Yeah, for sure. Well, all right. Well, listen, first of all, now that you've announced these amazing, what you picked up, I can't even believe it. That's an amazing buy. Congratulations. Follow Leighton on Instagram at @just_collect and Leighton_Sheldon, and listen to I'm sure he'll do an episode on his podcast of this whole trip on trading card therapy. That's his podcast. Guys, do you have any questions for him before he gets back to his drive home? Mikey, Ameet, anything?
So is this a purchase or are you selling for him? And what was his why? Sorry, it's a two-parter. And the second part is, why did he decide to sell it at this point?
Sure. So I'm sorry, I heard the second part. What was the first part?
The first part was, did you purchase it, or was it something you're just selling on behalf of him?
Oh, sure. No, great question. So no, I did purchase the collection outright for cash. In case anyone's wondering, I didn't pay cash. I wired him the money. And then the second reason, or second question you asked is, why was he selling? And from what I could tell, he just was kind of done. He had really enjoyed the ride. He's not out of touch with sports. He loves it. Just said he had a really good run, a really good ride, moving on with different things in his life. And, it's really interesting. He was very well aware of auction houses, very well aware of, candidly, almost every major dealer. But we reacted very quickly. And so the lesson that I wanted to leave everyone with today, I don't care if you're going to the expo. I don't care if it's a buddy of yours tells you about a collection. Keep in mind that if you're going to the expo this weekend and you see a card that's desirable to you, it's probably desirable to others, just like this collection was. So this gentleman appreciated that I took, the effort to travel thousands of miles across the country. And, we did a lot of due diligence up front. And so that's the reason why, this particular collection worked out. But I would encourage folks to, have that same kind of, aggressive nature when going to the expo and other big conventions. If you see something you like, try to jump on it before someone else does.
Yeah.
Good advice. Question I have, if I may. Yeah, it's a question I have for you. Were there any cards in that collection that you have an emotional attachment to that you might have a hard time parting with?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that the Bill Russell 6 isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But I have a 4.5 that I'm just going to kind of like, you know what? I bought a 4.5 and I'll put the 6 away, maybe for a rainy day. But I do appreciate asking. Listen, I love vintage basketball. I think it's going to be a struggle, to go through the collection. But I have my eyes on the Bill Russell. That's well centered.
Nice.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming on, making the effort. I appreciate your effort. He appreciated your effort to travel across the country. I appreciate your effort to come on the show from your Uber. You even tried from the airport, but the Wi-Fi wasn't good enough. So looks like he's froze. Oh, there you are. Good to have you, Leighton. We'll let you go. Thanks for coming on, and good luck processing the collection.
It sounds super fun, actually.
Yeah, I would love to have that.
Thanks, guys. Have an awesome time at the expo. I'm jealous.
Thank you. Thanks, Leighton. Take care, buddy. All right.
That sounds awesome. And also, I love how you guys have given me cover with my wife. I'll just be like, look, I had to buy it. Everyone I did the podcast with said, I have to buy it as soon as I see it and I want it. That was the resounding message from tonight.
So let's go to some more questions here. Sean Red says, which day is the slowest at the expo? I mean, it's Sunday by far. I feel Sunday is easily the slowest.
So Thursday, the preview night, right? Which we have opened it up. So if you're looking for like a gingerly walking, in terms of lowest attendance, it would be the Thursday, just because we've just opened it up to everyone. It used to just be for VIPs.
Okay.
And then Friday and Sunday are pretty similar. Sunday's very busy.
From a vendor's perspective, like sales wise, it's not Sunday. I can tell you that it's Thursday. it's the opposite. Thursday,
honestly, for vendors, it's probably Wednesday when you all meet with each other. It's
Thursday. It's Thursday before the door opens sometimes, but no, I mean it's Thursday and Friday for sure for the vendors, because I think people are realizing that they have to get their cards before somebody else does.
Yeah,
Sunday can be okay, but it's not like Thursday, Friday.
There are people running on Thursday to your booth sometimes if they know what you're like running. So I would say Thursday is not slow. Sunday after 1, very slow.
Scotty Noble is going to be there on Friday for the first time. Good to hear, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. And of course, everybody, Thursday night is the Jack Astor's networking event, hosted by myself, and the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel. We host it. Everyone's invited at the Jack Astor's. Be sure to just come see me on Thursday. I'll tell you all about where it is, or check my Instagram page. There's information on it there. Jake Dahl says, at the expo, are there any sellers selling Montreal Forum type memorabilia? I believe there are.
For sure there is.
Yes.
I can say without a shadow of a doubt, and not just there, any stadium that has been torn down, I promise you will see a vendor there who has like a seat from there or something, a brick or something. That's the joy of having a show that is so all-encompassing to the hobby. You will find it there.
Yeah, and the expo, it's not just card booths. Like, it's mostly card booths, but it's not only card booths. I would say 15%, maybe a bit more, are like knickknacks and other collectibles besides sports cards. So you will find all sorts of things at the you will even find pepperoni at the pepperoni booth.
That has been there since day one, though. It is a legacy client. But I love how you called memorabilia knick-knacks. Like, that's how you can tell you just collect cards.
But it's different than memorabilia. It's
different. I know.
But you'll find original artists there set up with their work. You'll find all sorts of all the supply companies. And Corey from Show Your Slabs comes up from the States, among many others. Yeah. Michael H says, last I paid attention to Hot Goose, Pavel Bure, and before that, Eric Lindros. No disrespect. No, I mean, those were the golden years right there. Hey, Ameet, you won't have trouble finding cards of theirs at the show. Michael H, here's an honest question. Do people other than Americans and Canadians come to the show?
There's a heavy abundance of people from overseas, from I want to say Sweden, Finland, Germany. Yes, there's actually 2 or 3 of my customers are from Finland and Germany.
We had Australians there last time.
Hong Kong was another one. I had people from Hong Kong show up. And in the past it was Russia.
Oh yeah, there were a bunch of people there from Asia too last time. It's not like the National where you're getting like thousands of people from across the world, but we get probably a couple hundred, I would think, that are coming from overseas. It's a big show. Like it is. It's a big show. It's second biggest show in the world behind the National. So Hank the King. I'm flying up from Georgia for the first time. Had this plan for 6 months. When I found out it was the same weekend Lundqvist gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. Well, that's awesome, Hank. Well, you're Hank for Henrik Lundqvist, but that's awesome for Hank the King, because the expo is often coincides with a Hall of Fame induction weekend. So that's pretty awesome. All right. Simon, what's the story behind the pepperoni booth? That's it. The guy knew that there would be a market of buyers, so he set up and he hasn't stopped. I believe that's it. Hey, Mikey, anything more?
Literally, he's been going. He's an older gentleman. He's been at the show well before the current owner owned it. And honestly, if you have the pepperoni, you'd understand why he's still there.
I have a question. Do you go and tell him to renew his booth every year, or is it just
We don't have to tell him. He's right. He's first, right? He's for like probably first person to renew.
Do you ask him? Like, do you actually have to ask him?
No, I think he like goes through the process. That's a Steve question. That's above my pay grade. The pepperoni guy is not someone I only deal with eBay and our title sponsor eBay and things like that. But the pepperoni guy is a strictly Steve client. But
Hank,
yeah, go ahead.
That's enough pepperoni. Hank the King, any tips on traveling with 4K in cash? I'm pretty nervous.
You're fine.
Hank, you will be one of the lighter weight people there with 4K in cash. So there will be bigger targets out there. And I just say, being honest, like, 4K doesn't get you what it did in the hobby 10 years ago. I would just say, keep it in your pocket and don't have loose pockets. Like, just take the same precautions you would take with your passport or your wallet or anything of value. But 4K, listen, there will be people there who are not honest. So, just make sure you have it in it. Maybe a zipper pocket on your jacket or something like that. Like, just be smart with your cash like you would any valuables. That's what I would say.
Imagine you're going to Disneyland or something like that, right? Same idea. Lots of people having the best time of your life.
Colin Murray says Saturday is the slow day for me every show. And that's one of those weird things. Hey, Mikey, like, I don't know why that is. It's often not like Thursday. Maybe it's because your best stuff gets bought on Thursday and Friday.
Well, and let's talk about what slow definition is, right? So slow is in attendance, slow is in and is it slow as in number of cards moving, or is it number of high-end cards, right? So there's all different levels of how you can gauge slow. So in terms of slowest day, Saturday is crazy because so many people are there. But as you guys said, you're doing so much of the business on the really premium cards early, which is why it's such an advantage to come Thursday, Friday. That you're maybe moving more cards but it's less per sale. Yeah.
It's Saturday to me is the busiest traffic, like hardest to move around. But sales, maybe I don't know. It's like you get more. Maybe you just get more people there spending less money, where the hardcore people are there Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Bobby Burrell says knickknacks are best referred to as food and company issue merchandise and memorabilia. There is the technical term.
Thank you, Bobby.
For knickknacks, everybody. There's the technical term. Not slow in attendance, Sean Red. Pretty busy in attendance on. I think Colin's literally talking about revenue. Maybe it's deal volume and revenue.
And that's it. So when you heard us, and again, to the gentleman who just asked that, when you heard me and Jeremy and Ameet disagree on what the slowest day was, I'm talking attendance numbers, right? Yeah. I'm talking walking around, how many people are on the floor, and they're talking how good they do in sales.
Exactly. Right? Neil says, got to increase my budget now. I have to get some of this legendary pepperoni. I've never had it, by the way. And I also like that I don't set up near him because it's got an aroma. It's got an ambiance to it, right? So Strictly Wild says, have you found that collectors are doing more half trade, half cash versus straight cash purchases? I don't know. I mean, to me, it's always been that way. Like, most people are just buying in cash is what I find. But I mean, I'll say this, because it's just so busy. I shy away from the trade deals a lot because they take longer to work out. At least for me, they do. And when I got 6 other people at the booth wanting to talk to me and buy a card, it's like, I just don't have time to work out a trade. Like, if there was time, I would be way more willing to do it. But time is of the essence, and there's just not the time. I haven't had that time to do a trade at my booth in over a decade.
I also think people see influencers on YouTube and they make these massive trades with some cash in there, and they think that's how it's going, but it's a scene setup, right? Like, it is hard for a vendor, as you're saying, to like trade a $100 card for a $100 card. There's definitely ways to do. That's what trade night's for, right? That's what. See you Saturday night. Lots of trading going on in there.
The other part of it is as a dealer, people don't realize you invest a lot of capital to get to that point. Right? You're looking to a return on investment, and folding paper is worth more than cards, right, at some point, right? So I would say most of the deals I do is cash. I don't have time to think about trades. It's just too busy. Honestly, it's way too busy, and the opportunity cost of trying to work out a trade with cards, it's pretty high. So I defer to cash deals.
I mean, if you come to my booth with a card that I want, I'm going to try and trade you for it, especially if I can trade away a card that I've had too long or I don't want. Like, I'm not going to not do trades. So, and I do want to see people's cards because I will buy cards as well. So it's worth a discussion, but it's just, I don't know. I don't think there's any standard way to it or trend, really. Sean Robb asked this question a little while ago, Sean. Can you speak to the impact of YouTube creators such as Mojo, Geoff Wilson, Chasing Cardboard in marketing the expo as an international destination? We'll put that one to you, Mikey.
Yes. Well, this has been a project I have worked on and has been a passion of mine. And in fact, it's funny enough, I use Jeremy as my springboard to get in contact with all these people. So thank you again, Jeremy, for being the connector. But it's huge. Last year when Mojo came in and Jay did his spots there and embarrassingly put me in a couple videos, that got reach of 50,000 views within a day. The reach is incredible. When Geoff Wilson came in and did the deal with Karn from Slab Sharks, that was a nearly 1 million view video. These are exposing the show well beyond the borders of anything we can do in social, anything we can do in advertising. I just saw Ameet grab a nice glass of red and take a sip, which threw me for a second. But yeah, that's why we bring these guests in. That's why we create the content. And not just that, but now we have some great local content. You know, Jeremy's a celebrity. He's going to pretend like he's not. Literally, I walk a show floor with them and he stopped every 2 feet. And then we have, you know, Brandon from Coach Co. We have Ameet, who's also a celebrity. He'll be doing an interview with the CEO from ComC. And then we have, you know, and then I was trying to get our friend from Chris Sewell, who said he was coming and then he abandoned me. But don't worry, Chris, for the 8th time in a row, I will continue to harass you to try to bring you into the show. But yeah, that really helps. And there's some awesome creators too. You know, that was one of the big reasons I went out to, why I went out to.
Well, Mikey, Chad Blesnick just showed up. We got to get him to the expo. He asked me about it.
I spoke to him. We met up with him, remember, at the National.
Steve Bles, we got to get you to the expo, my friend. Would love to have you up there for sure. But talk about this for a sec, Mikey. Steve Menzies says when Mojo filmed The Shoplifter.
Oh, yeah. That was crazy. It wasn't The Shoplifter. It was like it was a robbery that happened off-site, and he came to the show to sell it. And the guy who knew who he had stole it from, he was a consistent customer of the shop that the guy went to sell it to. And so it was a sting operation. The police were there. It was the best, quickest resolution for a guy who had lost, you know, $50,000 worth of cards and was now getting them back right at the show. It was a beautiful thing. And Jay, in his regular humor, basically took happened to be there, got it all on camera, was talking through it. It was awesome. And then it turned into some like amazing memes. If you remember, it really went wild afterwards. And it's like, and Bell's like, who's now chatting in, like they have reached beyond and have brought this hobby to a whole new generation. And I love the content. I'm a consumer of the content, as you know, Jeremy.
Yeah. No, that was when Jay Mojo got that and got the whole thing. That was awesome. Chad says heard good things about the show. Yeah, I've told you good things, Chad. But we got to get you up here. Ameet, what do you want to jump in with?
Oh, I want to say one thing about the comment Mikey said about you're a celebrity, walking down the aisle, and you're stopping every 5 seconds. What people fail to understand is Jeremy has a nose for a deal, and he's always looking and scanning, and he's always seeing where a deal could be had. Now, there are cases where Jeremy and I are walking down the same aisle. That sounds really weird. Where Jeremy and I are walking down the show floor, and we'll see cards for deal, and we just won't talk. We just zoom into our respective areas to buy that card. So rest assured, we're always hunting.
We're all, yeah, no matter where I'm walking, I'm always, every time I go to the bathroom, I'm like scanning the showcases because you don't get a lot of opportunities to get out of the booth. So every time I leave the booth, I'm looking in the showcases to see what I might be able to find. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so true.
All right, guys, listen, we gotta wrap this up.
I do want to give one quick shout out though before two people. One, Mr. Minting's coming in, and I grabbed him. I love seeing stuff like that. He'll be doing part of the investing in the hobby panel. And then we had a shout out for Carlos, who from Sluggers, he is the hardest working man in the hobby. That he is going around to every store, every show, and promoting it. He does a great job of really helping out the hobby.
Yeah. Carlos is awesome. Sluggers 55. He'll be at his booth there. So all right, guys, we got to wrap up. I'm literally losing my voice here. I'm under the weather. I've got 2 more shows tomorrow and the next day. Mikey, thank you for joining. Always a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you. Same with you, Ameet. Thanks for coming on. Have fun at hockey tomorrow morning with your boys. Mikey, I know you got a lot of work going on before the show, so keep it going, keep working on it. And thank you everybody in the chat. Appreciate all your comments. I'm not going to run through anymore because as you can tell, I can't talk anymore. So we'll see you all at the expo. And with that, this episode of Sports Cards Live, everybody, is over.